I'm recording you now.
Okay, and ready and begin.
Okay. So today we're talking about Alexander the Great, which you guys have talked about before. We're just kind of adding some more information about him. So I want to ask first if you've ever done anything for someone that was nice and they weren't appreciative of it. Has it ever happened in your life? Do you want to tell me about it, Sarah?
Well, my sister never appreciates the nice things I do for her.
And how does that make you feel? Angry?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Sometimes I'll clean my house and my roommate doesn't say thank you.
How does that make you feel?
I don't ever want to clean the house ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to read two different short legends about Alexander the Great. And we're going to kind of break the two up. So the first one has some difficult words that you might not know. The first one is toiled, which means to like engage in really hard or continuous work. So I got a little hammer on there and I put the words so you guys can refer to these as we read. And I thought the hammer kind of symbolizes hard work, so maybe that'll help you remember it. The second one is infantry. Does anyone know what infantry might be? You might know this one, Sarah.
It's when you have a gun and your job is to use the gun.
Okay. Yes. And I'm not really sure if these soldiers had guns back in the day. They might have used other weapons, but that is like a modern day definition. But yeah, it's any soldiers or like a military unit. So I put a little soldier on there with the word infantry to remind you of that. And then the last one is a goalie. Does anyone know what a goalie is?
Like in soccer, he protects the ball from going into the goal.
That would be a goalie, and this is a goalie, which it sounds similar when I say it, but it's something different, which is it's just like a small valley, kind of like a ditch, and it like is made from running water. And so sometimes there's water left in it, and sometimes they completely dry out. So this is an actual picture of a goalie that'll help you remember it as we read. Okay, and then also as we read, we're going to have you guys act out the characters. So I need someone to be an Alexander. Sarah's got it. Okay, and then we also need, I know there's only one of you, but we need like someone to be the army. Alright, clear. And then, Molly, you'll be the light infantry. And you'll know when it's your party to say it. Okay, so this is the legend of the helmet. Oh, and the question I should ask you before we start is, this is what we're going to be looking for to answer afterwards. And it says, in the first story, why did Alexander pour the water on the ground? So be thinking about that as we read. Okay. So, the army was crossing a desert of sand. The sun was already blazing down upon them, but they were struggling on under the necessity of reaching water, which was still far away. Alexander, like everyone else, was tormented by thirst. But he was nonetheless marching on foot at the head of his men. It was all he could do to keep going, but he did so, and the result, as always, was that the men were better able to endure their misery when they saw that it was equally shared. As they toiled on, a party of light infantry, which had gone off looking for some water, found some, just a wretched little trickle collected in a shallow gully. They scooped up with difficulty what they could and hurried back to Alexander. Just before they reached him, they tipped the water into a helmet and gave it to him. Alexander, with a word of thanks for the gift, took the helmet and, in full view of his troops, poured the water on the ground. So extraordinary was the effect of this action that the water wasted by Alexander was as good as a drink for every man in the army. So what do you guys think about that? What Alexander did? Do you think that was good leadership or bad? You think it was good?
It would have been worse if he would have just been like, thanks, I've been
Strength
doing
in front of
this.
everybody?
And it wouldn't, like, since it was so small, it wouldn't have been enough for everyone to have some.
That's a really good point. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and answer the first question. Number one, in the first story, why did Alexander pour the water on the ground?
Horse raced an army on a nearby plain and prepared for battle. The engagement was unlike any other previous battle. Horses, elephants, and now boxed in, and the vampire waited.
Don't look at my answer.
Claire, do you need more time?
No, I think I'm okay. Thank you, though.
You're welcome. Okay, now we're going to move on to the second story, which is The Legend of the Hat Band. And I'm going to show you just a few vocabulary words you might not be familiar with. And the first one is reeds. Does anyone know what reeds are?
I use it to play my saxophone.
Okay, yeah, great. This is a different definition for the word reeds, even though it's the same thing. It's like weeds or like tall grass, and so like kind of that you see in a pond. So that's what reeds are. And then the other word we have is zeal. Does anyone know what zeal is? It's kind of an expression.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like enthusiastic devotion. So like when you're really like passionate about something. So I put a thumbs up because I thought, I don't know, this kind of reminds me of like good job and passion. So those are some reminders that you can refer to as I read the story. Okay, so we're gonna act this one out again. So Sarah, do you still want to be Alexander?
I make a good Alexander.
I think you do too. And Claire, will you be the sailor?
Of course.
Okay. Alright, so this is The Legend of the Hat Band. And we're also going to be reading some questions, or answering some questions after this. So the second question is, in the second story, why did Alexander give the soldier who saved the hat band a reward? And then why did he order the man's head to be cut off? And then the third and fourth question, we're also going to answer after this. And it is how you can use the legends to argue that Alexander was great, and how you can use them to argue that he was not great. Okay, so we'll start the second story. Alexander was himself steering the trireme, which is a warship with oars. So he's taking over the warship with oars. He's the one that's steering it, yep. When a strong gust of wind fell on his broad-brimmed Macedonian hat and the band that encircled it. The hat, being rather heavy, fell into the water. However, the band was carried along by the wind and was caught by one of the reeds growing near the tomb of one of the ancient kings. One of the sailors swam off towards the band and snatched it from the reed. But he did not carry it in his hands because it would get wet while he was swimming. He therefore put it around his own head and brought it to the king. Most of the biographers of Alexander say that the king gave him a talent, which is more than $10,000, as a reward for his zeal. Then he ordered his head to be cut off, because the prophets had explained that you should not allow the head that had worn the royal headband to be safe. So what do we think about this one? Do you think this was good leadership by Alexander? Or do you think it doesn't make him great?
It started off great, and it ended very rude.
Why do you think they ordered his head to be cut off?
Because they had respect for what the prophet said, but like, if I was a soldier, that wouldn't inspire me.
I agree with you, Sarah. Any other thoughts?
I'm just not as good, I guess.
Okay, so let's go ahead and I'll have y'all answer the second question. In the second story, why did Alexander give the soldier who saved the hat band a reward? And then why did he order the man's head to be cut off? Okay, and then if you're ready for the next one, it wants to know how you can use these legends as evidence to argue that Alexander was great. So like, what happened in the stories that made him great? And then if you're ready for the next one, it's asking how you can use the legends to argue that Alexander was not great. So what you saw or heard in the story that makes him not a great leader.
Bless you. Bless you.
Okay, Now I want to hear your guys' thoughts. So, Claire, do you want to tell me what you had for the first
Can I
question?
do the second one?
Yeah. Sarah, do you want to share what you had for the first question?
Yeah, he was great because he suffered with his men. Like, he never put himself, like, oh, well, I'm your emperor, so I get the water because my life means more than
Yeah.
yours.
Yep. Great. All right, Claire, do you want to do the second one?
Oh, I thought we were doing the first. One of these. Okay. How can you use these words? I said he was not great because he killed a man who did him a favor.
Yeah.
And that's rude.
That is rude.
His next soldier's gonna be like, get your own hat.
Okay, so to kind of recap what we have just went over and like make sure we're comprehending this. Okay, so I have cut up the story that we just read, and you can either work as a team or work in pairs, and you kind of have to put it back together and see if you can figure out the order of events that happened. So I'm pretty sure these stayed together. So I don't know if you want to do one and you want to do one, or if you want to work together.
We can work together. We're
Okay.
friends.
Do we have to put a document away so we can't see it?
Yes.
Okay.
No cheating.
That one was first because I forgot I was the army.
They. Alex, I can't see them. Sorry,
You're
guys.
good.
I think this was at the end because it's after he has the water.
Yeah. And they were marching and they kept going.
Yeah. Toiled on. I think it's like this.
I think so too.
Think you got it?
And it fits together well.
I think we got it.
Great. Looks good, guys. Do you want to give me just like a really quick summary of everything that happened?
Sure. So the army was crossing the desert and it was really hot and they had no water. And Alexander was at the head, and then an infantry went out and they went to a gully and they found some water and they brought it back to Alexander in a helmet. And Alexander took the helmet and dumped it on the ground. And it was a big gesture.
Yep, it was. Alright, here's the other one.
This is first. So you have to steer the boat. I remember that one. Go into the water. And then one of the sailors went to get it.
You should know. I think it goes like this because it says the prophets, and then the hat being rather heavy.
But it was carried.
Yeah.
No way.
We have 2 more minutes.
Yes.
Sarah, do you want to give me a quick summary?
So Alexander's steering the boat, and then wind comes and knocks his hat off into the water, and then a brave sailor who's like, I love my king. He's gonna go fix the problem, get the hat. Well, he gets the hat, and then Alexander is ungrateful and chops his head off after giving him a reward because he wants to say thank you, but then he's like, oh yeah, I don't want to be overthrown. And then none of his sailors ever help him again.
Good. Excellent. Do you guys have any questions about these stories or Alexander or vocabulary or anything?
Would this be considered a primary source or a secondary source?
Okay, that is a great question, Sarah. I'm so glad you asked that. I'm going to read this little snippet at the top of the document if you want to look at it. And it says the source is from Lucius Flavius Arrhenius, 130 Common Era, and it says the ancient biographers of Alexander told these stories. They are retold here by Arrian and a modern-day historian. True or not in their detail, the stories reveal 2 sides of Alexander that were probably accurate. So, from reading that, what does that make you think if it was primary or secondary?
secondary.
Why do you think that?
Because, I mean, it says they were retold here by Arian and a modern day historian. So if you, like the second one says 2004, he wasn't alive in 2004.
Exactly. So that's a long time period. So obviously these guys did not know Alexander. And another interesting thing to point out is it says true or not true in their detail. So they're not even sure if the legends are true or not. So good question.
Good moral for leaders.
Yeah.
Treat your people right.
Okay, we're not going to do the extension activity, but if we were going to do the extension activity, I have a Venn diagram and we compare and contrast the two stories and their similarities and differences. But,
Cool. I can turn it off, right?
yep.